So our next item on the agenda is Crimes Against Children presentation. Is Commander Vega also logged in?
This is Sergeant Terra Juarez. Unfortunately, Commander Vega had something come up and wasn't able to attend this meeting this evening.
Okay, well, we'll press on and with your presentation then.
First of all, I'd like to apologize. I don't have a PowerPoint or anything to put up for you guys, but I do understand there was some questions in your guys' last meeting about child abuse and crimes against children. I can give you some yearly statistics that our unit is currently investigating. So the Crimes Against Children unit does investigate all felony allegations of like child abuse, child neglect, child homicide when it involves a family member or a legal guardian. So my unit consists of 7 detectives, and I have 2 civilian employees. The glue that holds my unit together is Miss Laura Chavez, who is in this meeting. She is our CACU coordinator / civilian supervisor. Our current cases that are assigned on average per month, we average about 28 cases assigned to detectives every month. We've had 109 cases assigned this year. We have closed approximately 130 cases, and that's the reason the number is a little bit higher than the assigned numbers is because that was the caseload that carried over from 2021. We carried over 174 cases from 2021. So we're closing an average of 33 cases per month. And the average the average Crimes Against Children's unit detective is carrying approximately 23 to 25 cases at any given time. Right now, we work closely with CYFD. We work with AllFace, which is the facility that does all of our forensic interviews for our children. And we also work with Para Los Niños, which does like the medical forensic interviews, sexual assault exams, and things like that for our children. We're hoping that we can increase our detective caseload. Unfortunately, just like I think every unit within our department is short on people, whether it be in the field, whether it be the Crimes Against Children's unit, whether it be the homicide unit, we're all pretty short. But we're hoping to increase our detectives at least by 1 more. We're not sure exactly when that is going to happen. I am going to let Miss Laura Chavez kind of talk to you guys a little bit about SCI referrals. And SCI referrals are our statewide central intake, and that's how we get a lot of our referrals for child abuse, child neglect, allegations of abuse, those kind of things. She has kind of the specific numbers about how many SCI referrals that our unit gets each month, actually each day. So I'm going to go ahead and let her discuss that with you and the relationship, how CYFD deals with those SCI referrals as well. Laura, do you have microphone yet? I don't think her mic is working.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Okay, great. I phoned in. So, yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting us to attend tonight. I do apologize for the blackout screens. Our computers that we have don't have cameras on them, so I do apologize for that. So, as Sergeant Terra discussed, we have a relationship with SCI. It's the statewide central intake office within CYFD. These reports come from the general public, teachers, coaches, anybody who's not only mandated reporters, but just concerned citizens that are worried about children that they see maybe in the streets. We get reports from people that are shopping at Walmart and they see little children left in the vehicle alone, unattended in the hot temperatures, from, just kids out on the street alone, 3-4-year-olds they're finding daily, just walking the streets. I'm not sure. I feel like that's our latest trend going on for some reason. CYFD reports come in 24/7, 365 days a year. There's no break on that. I probably review approximately over 300 reports a week. Last year alone, just in Bernalillo County, we had over 15,000 reports of abuse and neglect come through our office, and the total for the state, I believe, was right about 45,000 reports. So it's a lot. We do have the majority of the reports are neglect reports. Some of these reports are screened out by CYFD and nobody investigates them because it doesn't meet CYFD's criteria for whatever reason. Like I said, I get these reports. If a report comes in that I feel meets our criteria within the police department to warrant a welfare check or a investigation, then we do open that up for the detectives or the field officers to step in and help these kiddos. The summer's coming in. I know, was it Sandra Perea or from last month's meeting?
Yes.
She did have a few questions. I don't know if she's here today, but I know her concerns were about summer coming up, and you know how we're going to be able to keep the children safe. There is a commercial that comes out. I believe it's like twice a month. It's the Pound Safe commercial. It's by the Pull Together campaign. I noticed that whenever that commercial does air, our sky reports go up probably by 30%. I don't know that a lot of people have the knowledge of this hotline, and I think it's important to get that information out there so anybody could report. And then, of course, you know, a lot of them call just 242 cops or 911 as well. There is on the Children, Youth, and Families website, there is what's called the 360 annual report, and it's a state fiscal year. And there's a lot of stats on there if you guys are curious about what all they investigate and how their different divisions operate. That's all in there. It's a really good website and a good report to look at.
So this is Sergeant Terra Juarez. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Laura.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, and the detectives are real good about if anybody does request training, whether it be through the community centers or the schools, other city agencies, the detectives go out and they do that training as well.
So, Laura, I have a question for you. Why do you know what's going on with children wandering on the streets and walking by themselves and unattended? What's the situation here? What's going on with the parents?
Well, drugs are involved with some of them. Other reports I've read, once field officers go out, the parents have to go to work and they don't have anyone to watch their child. That was another reason. Or they're inside sleeping and the kids wander off. But and a lot of it, well, all of it is neglect. You know, they're just not paying attention to the kiddos, and the kiddos see a way out, so they leave. But it's really, you know, we all know that's just so dangerous.
Totally agree. What an absolute mess. I mean, it's just like the parents, I'm sorry, really don't give a shit.
Unfortunately, there are that group that doesn't. CYFD does get involved in those situations. If an officer is called out to a child who's found by themselves, they immediately call CYFD to take custody of that child if they're not able to find the parent.
Right.
So, Sergeant Juarez and Ms. Chavez, were you able to take a look at those questions that Sandra had on the YouTube link that I sent you?
So the questions that, unless I missed it, it was, her concern was about the summer coming up and how are we going to keep the children safe. I think that was her main concern.
Okay, you were able to listen to that short excerpt on the YouTube. So, Sandra, do you have any questions, comments, suggestions that you'd like to offer?
Just, I don't know if this statistic would be on the CYFD website, but now that you had said about the children wandering in the streets, is child trafficking / human trafficking, are those stats up at all this year?
So as far as the trafficking, that is investigated by the Attorney General's office, and also there's a task force, it's the FBI task force, which consists of APD, BCSO, AG's office, district attorney, and they do handle those type of cases. So I do not have numbers for you on that, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I can tell you in reference to the human trafficking, a lot of that is going to occur more towards the cities or the states that border, like that border Mexico, unfortunately. So we don't see as much of it as, say, like El Paso does. There was a couple other things I just wanted to give you guys for statistics wise. So in 2022, we have had 8 child deaths. That's a horrible number, but I can let you know that 3 of the deaths were medical related. 3 of them were teenagers who overdosed. 1 was a suicide, 1 was a co-sleeping. We have not had any reported child deaths, like a homicide by a parent or guardian this year. And one of the things that the Albuquerque Police Department has implemented several years ago, Sergeant Luchetti had, I guess you could call it a task force, but it's a field officer that is certified in the Child Abuse Response Evaluator. So they go through 32 hours of training on how to handle calls in the field that are related to children, whether it be a child abuse, a child neglect, anything to deal with a child. We have specialized officers in the field that responded to those. This year we were able to, in the past, we were only allocated 50 officers for that. In April, we ran another training and we were allocated another 50 officers. So we actually are up to, I believe it's just above 80 field officers and 4 sergeants for the child abuse response evaluators. They're called the CARE officers, and they are specialized in how to take those calls with children or with juveniles to make sure that, CYFD is contacted, to make sure that, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, so we can get, these children taken care of and making sure that they're safe in our community. So that's a real positive thing for the Albuquerque Police Department. I think it'll help a lot. As Laura mentioned, the summer is coming up, so the amount of people that report do go down because a lot of our reports do come from the school settings. So just in general, if you see, it's Albuquerque and it's 90 to 100 degrees in the summer, if you guys see a small child out walking with no shoes on, or they look like they haven't been bathed in days, or they look malnutritioned, you can always just do pound safe and do an anonymous report and call those in. So those are just some things that you might want to look out for. The schools and the parks still do, in the summer months, they still do free lunches at a lot of the parks and a lot of the schools. So if you reach out to your community, you can let them know as well that these children still have an option for lunches. Because I know a lot of kids the families just don't have the money for food, and that's when they eat, is when it's at school. So the summer months are hard for these children. But the schools and the parks in all area commands still offer free lunches to families.
Sergeant Juarez, I'm not familiar with Pound Safe. Can you explain that number really quickly?
I think Laura could probably explain it a little bit better, only because she's the one who does all those reports. That she looks into all of the reports that are sent to her. So I'll let her explain that one for you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
About Pound Safe?
The pound, if they wanted to report, just to be dialing pound SAFE.
What exactly
Correct.
does that
Yeah.
number connect to? Yeah.
That number, what does the number connect to? Is that what you said?
Yeah, what is it all about? I was unaware of the program myself.
Oh, okay. So Pound Safe will lead you to an operator who takes the report of abuse, neglect. There are a few questions they ask. Actually, not a few. There are many questions. I mean, down to like, what school? Do you know what school the child goes to? Are there dogs in the yard? Are there guns in the home? A lot of times, just a concerned citizen will not have that information, and that's okay. So they take the report based off what you tell them. They're all certified operators that work, like I say, 24/7. They'll ask for if you know the name of the parent, the names of the children, any date of birth you might have, addresses, ethnicity, and they will ask the name of the person calling in the report. This, you can call in anonymous, which I don't prefer that, only because if a teacher's calling in a report saying that the child told them, you know, Uncle Johnny's touching them inappropriately, it's important for me to know that that came from a teacher or a credible source, because at that point, a credible source would give us basically the go ahead to assign the case to a detective right away, versus a non-credible source, say somebody anonymous is calling it in. At that point, we don't know who it is. You know, is mom and dad breaking up? So mom's trying to get back at dad. So she's making these accusations, because unfortunately we do see those reports as well. So at that point, with the anonymous source, then we have to send out field officers to talk to the child, and then kind of put the child through some unnecessary questions that they may be asked, you know, 4 or 5 times. If it's a credible source, we get it assigned and we get the child to the safe house to do their interviewing there. And it skips through all the process of talking to, you know, first disclosing to the teacher, and then the teacher tells the counselor, and then the counselor asks the child, and then the counselor tells the principal brings the child in, asks the child again, you know, and then here's law enforcement asking again. It's just like this long drawn out process. So after the child, if you could imagine, being asked this question 5, 6 times, by the time they get to the safe house, they may just say, oh my goodness, okay, nothing happened, you know. It's a lot. So we try to cut out all those middle people and get them straight to the safe house to do their interview with the professionals who are, you know, very well at doing their job. So, I mean, at that point, so you call in a report. So Sky has a protocol. They're going to either label that report as an emergency, and with the emergency, they have 3 hours to get to that child. A P1, they have, I believe, up to 10 hours to find that child. And then P2s, they have up to 5 days. And then a screen out report is a report that they don't feel has anything to do with the safety of the child. Now, CYSD, the reports that they take, that they accept, has to do with family involvement. So the parent, guardian, or household member, and uncle, they have to be some type of relationship, because I see often they screen out reports because the perpetrator is not a parent or guardian. But that's where we come in. That's where we get these reports, we read over them, and then we figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to handle those reports. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then once the report's made, they take it to their supervisor, they review it, and then that's when they give it their category. And then they decide to do whatever they're going to do at that point. But I do get all the reports to kind of have second eyes looking over them at any time.
Mike, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Speak up loudly.
Okay. Laura, I believe you said you get around 300 reports daily. Is that correct?
That is weekly.
Weekly. And of those 300, how many do the police end up getting involved with?
So including field officers, because a lot of these reports do come from field officers as well. Gosh, I've never really thought about that, but I would say maybe 30 to 40%.
Okay, thank you.
So, CPC, Kelly, do we see any other questions?
There are no other questions.
Okay, so CPC members, do you have any questions or comments, thoughts? I want to share something myself, but I want to give you the opportunity first if there's something weighing on your mind. Okay, well, then I will say something. I pull a lot of grandpa duty. My two youngest granddaughters are with us quite a lot, and I have worked quite a lot, both with them, but also community members, to watch how children behave. I talk to parents at Costco, ask them how old their children are. I try to connect with them on a personal basis. And if I were to see, I'm just saying this, if I were to see a child wandering down the street, or even in Walmart, I saw a child walking down the aisle. I thought that he was following an adult in his family, but I walked close enough to him to see that he connected visually with an adult who turned around and said, "Hey, come on over here, you're getting behind," to make sure. So we as community members, I would suggest that we all develop those kinds of personal awareness of the people around us and care for their well-being. Take an action. You don't have to be berating parents for walking fast and losing track of their child, but make sure that they get connected. So it's something that we can do, as well as throwing it onto crimes against children detectives or the schools or field officers. So just my suggestion that we all take some personal responsibility. I would like to get back in touch with both of you to see if there's some sort of training that we can probably facilitate through CPCs for just regular family community members who'd like a little bit more training on what to watch for, how to respond to situations that seem troublesome. So
if you just send me an email, about maybe some dates and some times, we do have a presentation that my detectives will go out and present to the community. If you just give us dates and times and a location, I'm sure we can make sure that happens.
Okay, I will see what I can do to coordinate something like that and find out what an interest there is out in the community. And I hope that Sandra will offer some thoughts on that.